A group of good, ordinary, patriotic Canadians were arrested for walking around Caledonia, Ontario, carrying, wait for it, the Canadian flag. Now they've been cleared. But why on earth did this happen in the first place? Lead campaigner Gary McHale joins us. You're a terrorist, you're a communist, an anarchist, you hate Canada, you should be deported from this country. Hello. Now, you and some others, is it 8 of you in all?
8 of us in all.
Were walking along a Canadian street and 1 or 2 of you had Canadian flags.
Yes.
It's pretty provocative.
We've been doing this for almost 6 years now. I've been arrested twice for carrying a Canadian flag. In total, there's been now 12 people arrested for carrying a Canadian flag walking down a road.
Now, let's give the context here. This is in Caledonia, where a group of, well, some natives, some non-natives, very few from the area, actually, occupied an area of Caledonia about, what, an hour and a half outside of Toronto, I suppose?
Yeah, it's about an hour outside of...
And some of them have beaten up people. They've beaten people so badly they'll be disabled for the rest of their lives. They've kidnapped people. They've attacked cops. They kidnapped journalists. They've acted like anarchists and thugs, and very little has been done. But the police keep arresting you.
Yeah, I've been arrested 5 times now for simply doing peaceful protests. And the OPP know full well that if they throw the handcuffs on me, none of our group will respond with violence. And actually, the first time I was ever arrested, it was a direct order of Commissioner Fantino, ex-Commissioner Fantino now.
He's now a cabinet minister, isn't he?
Cabinet minister, and we filed a Ontario human rights complaint, and in his response, he actually says we were arrested to protect us from radicals who are going to attack us.
Well, shouldn't they be protecting you from these crazies who want to attack you? Not arresting you, but protecting you.
Well, I think if they have evidence that we're about to be attacked by radicals, the very first step is to inform us. Ever since the Jane Doe case in Toronto, police officers are under duty to inform you of any threats against you. And so the OPP have never sat down with us and actually said to us that there is a potential for violence and or we're going to be attacked. Never. But every single time I've been arrested, they've always used the excuse that it's to prevent a breach of the peace.
Look, you're provocative. What you do does provoke. But the people it provokes they are extreme. They're often violent, and what they're doing is illegal. Now, what you're doing in normal circumstances would not provoke anyone other than a lunatic. The whole point is they provoke all the time. They're occupying now. What they're doing, they're breaking the law. They provoke. Nothing seems to happen. Your provocation is merely carrying a flag saying what they're doing is unfair, and you are arrested. I don't buy that for a moment. They're trying to protect you. You annoy these authoritarians in uniform. You annoy them, at least the leadership, because you might start the other side, the protest, the occupiers, getting a bit angry, and the police don't want that. They want a quiet life.
Well, absolutely. They want to silence one side of the argument, and they do this all the time. There's various ways they've done it. I've been arrested 5 times. I've been sued for $7.1 million. That case was finally settled last year.
Who sued you?
Various OPP officers, because I had the gall to say that OPP officers were disobeying their oath of office. So it's all various stunts to put pressure on individuals, because if you sue me for $7.1 million, then you got to hire lawyers, you got to take the time, and they hope to drain people down. But the other side is permitted to continue to commit crimes. And recently, there was a guy who robbed the armed robbery of a Kentucky Fried Chicken store. And if you make it to the subdivision where the natives are, the OPP will never go on. So once you make it there...
He was a native protester?
I don't know if he was a protester. He was a native person.
And he ran back to the occupation area.
And he runs back to the occupation area, and then you're scot-free. This has been happening for 6 years. If you steal a car and drive into the occupation area, you're gone.
You know, I've got to push you on that. You know someone robbed a Kentucky Fried Chicken, armed?
Armed, yes.
With a what, gun?
Yes, a gun, an armed robbery with a gun.
And he fled. Do you know who he is?
We don't know the name. We don't know names.
You know he was native, and he fled back into the area where they're occupying, and the police refused to follow him into the area.
That's right. Because we listen to the OPP radio transmissions all the time. So you have the police showing up with a police dog, and they slowly trace over. And once they get to the edge of this occupation area, which is a subdivision, they stop all movement, and they won't go on. And this has been going on. We actually tape radio transmissions for the last.
Was that man arrested?
Pardon?
Was he arrested?
No, never are. Never are.
Are there native police in this area?
There are Six Nations native police, but they won't go on the occupation either, because technically the occupation area is part of Caledonia proper. It's not part of the reserve. So technically the Six Nations police don't have jurisdiction.
Okay.
The OPP won't go on because they're under orders not to go on.
You were arrested, you were charged, the case was thrown out. How long were you in court before it was thrown out?
We only had 2 visits this time, and it was thrown out. But I've been arrested in the past.
Hold on. You went to court. How long? Because to get you to court, to charge you, must have cost huge amounts of money.
Oh, absolutely. It does all the time.
Right. And how long did you actually spend in court before the prosecution said there's no chance of conviction?
Well, I have at least one advantage. Normally, if they have me in court, mine one of the first cases called forward because they don't want me sitting in court with possibility of other natives, so they always bring my case forward. So I was only there for 15, 20
the prosecution,
minutes this time.
They said there was no chance of conviction?
They said there was no chance of conviction, and then the only other statement they made was that the OPP have a difficult job.
Well, why the hell were you arrested and charged? I mean, where I live in Toronto, there is still a rapist going free after months of assaulting girls, and the cops seem too busy giving out tickets to motorists to catch anyone. They arrest you, they charge you, they take you to court, and the prosecution says, we can't convict. Why were you arrested?
Well, they say we were trespassing.
Well, the prosecution doesn't agree. If you're trespassing, you should be convicted.
Well, we had the title deeds that show that the road was properly deeded to the county as a road. Matter of fact, in 2006, Superior Court Judge Marshall had repeatedly issued order to the county to keep that county road open because it's a public road. So the OPP know it's a road. I mean, it's pavement.
But it sounds to me like this is political policing.
Oh, the Ontario Political Police have been around now for 6 years. They take their marching orders from the government. In actual fact, 2 hours before we were arrested, we sat in Tim Hortons with the OPP, and we read a letter directly from the government authorizing our arrest. They allowed us to read it off.
The Liberal government in Ontario.
The Liberal government in Ontario. And we had our tape recorder out on the table because we always tape everything with the OPP, and we read the entire letter off, and they told us, you will be arrested. This is coming down straight from the government. And so I said, okay. And then we walked on this road and we were arrested.
This is a public road?
This is a public road.
Is this part of the area?
When I showed the deeds to the police, they said if I walked back on the road, I would be put in jail overnight and held for bail court.
And were you?
No, I didn't go back on a second time.
I see.
Right? But we had a rally just a week ago Friday. And at that time, the police said that they would not arrest us for trespassing. So then I knew that they were going to drop the charge.
What have you got coming up?
Our next rally is a week from Saturday. It'll be February 18th, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll be walking down the exact same road and forcing the OPP once again to make a decision. Do they respect the rights of all people, or are they going to arrest us simply because they don't like our political views or don't like the race I am?
What do you think will happen?
I think they'll find a different stunt this time. The trespassing won't work. They'll try to do something like obstructing the duties of a police officer or resisting arrest. They have different charges every time. I've been arrested 5 times. I was prosecuted once for 30 months. I was in court at least 100 times.
Shall I tell you what? Just a few seconds we have left. What is happening in the West, and it's very worrying, and it's not just Canada, it's in the US and it's in the UK and Europe, is forces of anarchy, whether they be native, or occupiers or radical Islamists, are doing what they want, and the police are arresting the mainstream that opposes them. They're going after, in Calgary, we have a Christian minister who's being arrested, but they'll tolerate occupiers. In Britain, you'll have fanatic occupiers. They just let them do what they want to do, but they'll arrest people who are watching. And over here in Caledonia, where thugs have beaten people, we won't do anything to say the cops, but you are arrested. This is very bad for the future of civilization.
The unions are all there. I mean, this past week we had, and always, it's the QP 3903 union there, the teachers' unions are there, the steelworker union.
The teachers' union.
They're all allowed to be there. Yeah. So if I agree with Dalton McGuinty, I'm allowed to be on this subdivision. But if I'm a conservative, I'm barred from it.
So the teachers' unions, I suppose they're taking sick days to go out to...
and they all carry their flags. That's important. But you can't carry a Canadian one.
Hey, who cares about our kids being illiterate? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.